Yeah, I'm gonna ask you, what is the cost of this relationship to you? And is the cost worth
Mhm.
it? And if you do decide to continue with said relationship or said thing that is causing this amount of friction or tension in your life, what does that mean for your self-care?
Oh,
Yeah.
seek comfort and seek fit. Do you feel like you can sit across from this person, either in
Mhm,
person or on the screen, whatever the scenario is,
mhm,
and be open and honest about what is going on with you?
mhm.
Yes or no? All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to The Wait and the Wonder. I'm Jason Herndon. I'm a licensed psychologist.
And I am Felicia Ross. I am a licensed clinical social worker and a licensed mental health professional.
Yeah, this is where we take what is buzzing in pop culture and relationships and look at it through our therapist's eyes, not to diagnose the internet, but to
Mhm.
explore the nuance that gets lost in hot takes.
Absolutely, because usually we know that there is more to the story that does not get a chance to be out there. And so
Mhm.
today, for our main discussion, we are doing part two to our BIPOC Mental Health Month, I guess, series that we're doing. This is the last part, so I guess this is the
Mhm.
end of the series. And we're focusing on today finding a therapist. Part one was really about like going over the history and how
Mhm.
psychology has played a part in BIPOC populations and the global majority. And so today we are going to be talking about finding a therapist, not what makes a good therapist, but what makes a good fit. And
Mhm.
yeah. But
There's a difference.
first,
Yeah.
there is a difference, but I know you have a disclaimer, and then I want to ask you a
Yeah.
very important question. Yeah.
Yes, our disclaimer is a very quick reminder, which is that while we were both licensed psychologists, we are not well, I'm a licensed psychologist, you're a
Yeah. I was like,
licensed
oh, thank
clinical social worker.
you.
In spirit, definitely, if you want it. I'm not sure you would. Neither here nor there.
I'm not sure. Shots fired. Get them off while you can, because you're
Would
really
you
paying.
even want I just say, would you want to be a psychologist? You had a
I did
choice.
want to be a forensic psychologist at one point.
Oh, I did too. I watched a lot of CSI and got
Yeah,
very
I
confused about
really
what
did wanna
forensic
be a
psychology meant.
forensic. I did. I wanted to be a
Yeah.
forensic psychologist, and I truly wanted to. That was actually gonna be like, that was my path. I was going to, be a psychologist, but particularly one either forensic and then be focused on, like, at risk, or I use, Kim from Dope Black Social Worker,
Mhm.
at promise youth, as she
Oh,
likes to
yeah,
call them, and I
uh-huh.
really like that language. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I love
wanted
that
to do
reframe.
that.
Mhm.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I got us totally derailed. Back to the disclaimer.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're both therapists. We're not your therapist. This is not a
Yes.
substitute for therapy. If you
Yes.
need support, actually, just keep listening to this episode because we're going to tell you how to find a therapist.
Yes.
But
And
if you need support, you should seek professional help.
yes, and we will also have
Yeah.
resources, places that we hope people can find a good match
Mhm.
in the comments. So we will have
Absolutely. Yeah.
those directories, not Psychology Today, but directories like Inclusive Therapist. The Loveland Foundation is
Yeah.
beautiful for women, Black women specifically. There's so many resources, Beam, all sorts of things that I think needs to get elevated, especially during this BIPOC Awareness Month, Mental Health
Yeah.
Awareness Month. But first, I know we got a little derailed. How are you doing, Jason? How are you doing? How are you feeling? What's been going on for you outside of session?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm doing fine. You asked a great question earlier, which is what does fine look like
Yeah.
in this season of my burned out little life? And what that looks like is, what I told you then was like, there is nothing, I don't have any specific stressors that I am
Yeah.
currently worried about, which I am
Yeah.
very grateful for.
Mm.
The week has really just like smoothed itself out, right? Which I appreciate. I think the weekend should be pretty chill for the most part, which I appreciate. And so yeah, I'm doing okay. I did not tell you this. I bought an espresso machine and I am
Wow, do you
living
like
my
it?
best life. I do like it. Yeah, I do like it. We had one
Oh.
before, and then I don't quite remember what happened, but I remember we gave it to a friend of ours. It was like
Mm.
a half regular drip coffee maker and half espresso machine. And so we gave it to a friend of ours and I think we inherited a drip coffee maker that was nicer than the one we had from another friend who was leaving
Oh,
to
wow.
move overseas. And yeah, I just treat yourself, folks. Treat yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm glad that you're finding joy in
I am. I'm getting a little
in the
obsessive about milk
things.
frothing and like, okay, what's the best?
Have you been
Is
making?
2% better? Is not latte art.
Okay, you
I'm
haven't
not
been
there yet.
doing the
Maybe I'll
art.
get there
Okay.
one day, but I'm not there yet. But yeah, I've been making little lattes for me and my wife. We're enjoying them. The caffeine
That's
is
really cute.
real. And so I appreciate that as well.
I love that for you guys. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you're finding joy in that way.
Yeah.
Um,
How are you doing?
let's I know, right? We had a little talk about, what's been happening in the
We
personal.
did.
So yeah. Yeah. Mercury retrograde. I was like, I'm actually, there's some things that were a little bumpy, but then I was like, "Oh, I'm okay." And then, yeah, yesterday, I guess it decided to go out with a bang, and I'm
Mhm,
feeling that a little bit today, but not in a bad way.
mhm.
It's just more of a like, "All right, well, I guess this is the new wave that we just gotta ride." Going on some chronic illness side quests that I wasn't expecting and just
Yeah.
gonna do my best with that. And I also think that as I'm also navigating, mm, what this season of my life means for just a lot of things professionally, personally, etc. I think I'm very much aware of how much I am seeking just beautiful spaces to land
Mhm.
and how much community has become a buzzword, and I'm actually excited to build community, like true community. And
Yeah.
I've been really getting into like the weeds of like, okay, what makes a good community? What makes a community that is not just transactional? And so I'm excited to have that
Mhm.
discussion, in my holding space. But as I was perusing, I do wanna shout out, and I hope that they
Yeah.
clip this. Let me find it. They go by the Neo Soul God, the underscore Neo Soul God on IG, and on Threads, as I was perusing, they have committed themselves to creating a D&D HBCU, like a virtual D&D HBCU, meaning how to
Yeah.
play D&D for Black people, and I really love that so much. I didn't get to it sold out in 3 hours, mind you, but
Yeah.
I didn't get to join this cohort because I just have as we know, I am the queen apparently of doing too much, so I had too much going on, but they are gonna open up the next one in August, and so I will put that in the show notes. I just think it's really, like, amazing, and if you look I don't know, do I have to go to this side? If you look behind me, you can see that was my anniversary gift. It's a Dungeons& and Dragons player's handbook. Do I
Oh,
know what to do with it? No. I have no idea what to do with it. Don't even
I
know how
didn't
to
know
use
that.
it.
You should tell me. We have
Yeah.
we have talked about this. I've not talked about this on
W
the show, but I
yeah.
am currently in my
Yes.
2nd all black D&D campaign
I love
that
that
is
for you.
being expertly run by my sister-in-law. This is her first, like, full campaign.
Aw.
She's doing an amazing job.
Shout out
And so
to your
it's me, my
sister-in-law.
sister-in-law, shout out to Kamara, my brother, shout out to Nick, and then some of their friends. We were having
Mm,
such a blast. We play every 2 weeks, right?
I love
And so
that.
we just played on Wednesday. We're having so much fun. We're really into the game. We are not murder hobos. You'll understand what
Oh,
that means one day when you
okay, I'm
get a
like,
little bit more
"Oh."
into that. But yeah, D&D is a ton of fun, folks. And if you can learn to play, it sounds like this is a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, please do that. So shout out to the Neo underscore God, Neo Soul God, sorry, the underscore Neo Soul God, because they have like curated such a just a beautiful thing, and I love that. And it's 18 up, so just so y'all know, it's
Yeah.
it's for it's for the 18 and up crowd. But I just wanted to shout them out because I just think that's a beautiful thing. I know that people are also coming off of the high of DreamCon. I heard it was a great time. I
Oh
heard there
yeah.
was
I saw
just
all the clips. Uh-huh.
I saw all the clips. Maybe one day
Yeah.
Jason and I will be there. Maybe y'all will have us on a panel. We talk about anime sometimes. We talk about anime and mental health. We
We
do.
should talk about anime more so they'll invite us.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
do it.
I guess we gotta wake it up because no,
Yeah.
we
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 have been
really are
teasing an
so
anime
we
episode for a
did.
while. So
We
I
did
guess
tease it.
we
We gotta
should
do
make
that.
good on that tease. Yeah.
We should make it on that tease so that we can
Mhm.
really wake it all the way up. So
Yeah.
yeah, I wanna sit on a panel. I wanna go. I wanna go to
Oh,
Texas.
100%. I think it'd be so fun.
It would be so fun. It would be
Yeah.
so fun. So yeah, I've just been in that space of just like, okay, life is lifing and I still have joy. I still have beautiful friendships. Shout out to you. I still and like all my other friends, I know like not discounting y'all because
Not them,
my
just
friends will
me.
be like shout out to all my friends. My village who has been really holding me down during a tough period. So thank you guys so much, including you, Jason. And yeah, I've just been in a space of gratitude and it feels really nice to be here. And so I'm just like, yeah,
I
I
love
wanna do
that.
the things. Yeah, I got some journals, I wanna start journaling more. I'm gonna build a journaling ecosystem this weekend. I'm just, like, excited to do all the things.
We aren't
Yeah.
talking enough. We don't have the time. I'm looking over here because my journaling ecosystem includes 4 separate journals at this point that are all for
Wow.
different things.
No, we're not talking enough, you guys, and you can I mean, it's not really my fault, but yeah, we're not talking enough.
Mhm. We could do more. We can do more talking. Okay. Okay. I heard it. Settle down. Settle down.
I'm just like, "Wow,
Yeah.
Jason, since
Mhm.
since you wanted to wake it up last time, that you're older and you're so then that would
It's
put
true.
you in the position of being the big brother." And I
You're
just
not wrong about
kinda
that. I will do better. I will teach
feel
you about journaling. A
like
little fun. Yeah.
No, but we haven't talked about it. Like you told me about, "Oh, I didn't tell you about the espresso machine." I didn't even get to tell you about these hobbies because I was telling you
Yeah.
about how Mercury retrograde was very tied up in their microbraids and just kinda woke it all up for me, so no. But outside
Truly.
of that, I'm doing well, and I'm really excited for this episode. I
Yeah.
am really excited to have part 2 of this because I do think it's something that people get very caught up on, like, so, part 1 was really about us, like, talking a lot about how folks can get caught up on the thought of going to therapy. And then where we left off was like, okay, when you finally decide to go to therapy, then I know that that can get overwhelming as well. And I think it is partly because of, once you find out how to get the access and, you know, get over the barriers and then that exhaustion kind of carries over into finding a therapist. And so I think today is where the wonder comes in a little bit because after
Yeah.
everything that we named last time, the question becomes, okay, how do I, one, find a therapist, but also how do I actually find care that fits me? And I think that's the episode that we're really focusing on today. And here's where I'll start. I'll say a Black therapist with no skill for what you actually need is not automatically going to be your person.
No, they are not. Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
I agree with you. This is one of my favorite conversations to have, and it's one of the
Hmm.
conversations I think I and many therapists, you as well, I know, have
Hmm.
probably most often. Is the question that people have for us is, "Can you help me find a therapist?" Right? Or how would you go about
Yes.
finding a therapist? What do you do when you find your own therapist? Right? I'm in therapy
Yes.
now. I've had the same therapist for probably a couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Same.
I'm happy to share some of my own experiences.
Hmm.
But ultimately, so we're going to go through each of these in depth, but I'll start, at the top, which is there are
Hmm.
really, I would argue, around 5 steps to finding a therapist.
Hmm.
The first one is understanding what you need. We're going to go into
Hmm.
depth with all these. The second one
Hmm.
is really determining how you want or need to pay for therapy, right? The
Yes.
third thing is deciding who you want to see. We're going to spend a fair amount of time there.
Hmm.
The fourth thing is finding potential therapists. So once you figured out, like, this is who I think I want to see, how do
Hmm.
you go about finding those
Hmm.
folks,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, and the fifth thing is like, how do you reach out effectively, right? There is a way to reach out to therapists that therapists are more likely to enjoy, right? And respond to, and a way to reach out to them that is a little trickier,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That they might not enjoy. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about all of those things today. So why don't we
Yeah.
start with, you sort of teased this a bit a second ago with this idea
I
of
did.
like, what does it mean to understand what you're looking for or what you might need from a therapist, particularly for those folks who have maybe never been to therapy before, right? How
Yeah.
do you talk about that?
Yeah, I think that that's a great question. And so, where I come from is this perspective of really sitting with yourself to ask yourself, like
Hmm.
doing the metacognition with you, right? It starts with a lot of curiosity. Are you ready to sit across from a stranger? Are you ready to receive potential criticism? Are you ready to deal with that discomfort? Do you have the willingness to deal with that discomfort? I think
Hmm.
I also start with like, it's not just vibes and not just hot takes or engagement. Like there is research to be done, and that research starts with you. And I
Yeah.
understand research is laborious. Trust me, trust me, trust me, trust me. But it does matter because when we are talking about like the folks who belong to the global majority, Black folks, Indigenous folks, people of color, finding care that actually fits, it is harder for us as a
Hmm.
result of the cultural humility piece. Right? When you are sitting across from someone, I think looking for, do you feel like you have to explain yourself? Do you feel like you have to explain your experiences? Is this person actually curious about your experiences? I think asking yourself too, like what it is that you need, not just why are you going to therapy, but like what are you hoping to get out of therapy?
Hmm.
Right? Do you want a therapist? Because if you've never had a therapist before, would you like a therapist who is well versed in being able to hold your hand through the process of therapy? Not
Yeah.
all therapists enjoy doing that. I'll be quite honest, right? There are some therapists who are like, ooh, and this is all honestly a wake up call for therapists as well who do work with people. If you know that you don't enjoy walking people through the process of therapy, do not market yourself that way. It's
Yeah.
confusing.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
confusing for the
Hmm.
person, right? If someone is
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, I've never been to therapy before," and you're like, "Ooh, okay, well, no." If you know that that is not your niche of like walking someone through the process and knowing that it's going to take them time, it's going to take you time to build rapport with this person to get to the nitty gritty, and and say you're a solution focused, brief solution focused therapist, that person's not for you.
Hmm.
And you know that because you
Hmm.
do brief, like focus, solution focused therapy, or, I don't know the acronym, but you know that
Yeah.
you like to do brief
SFT.
therapy. Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
You like to just get to the point. That person is not gonna be able to get to the point because 'cause they've never done this before, and they may
Absolutely.
not be as aware of that as you could be aware of that because you know what your expertise is, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I would
yeah,
agree with all of that.
that's where I
I
would
think a point
start.
that I would add in terms of, like, just understanding what
Mhm,
you need is
mhm.
we are not suggesting that you have to have all of the right
Yeah.
language to describe, right? It is great, so if you go to therapy, have been in therapy, or will practice in therapy, then your
Mhm,
language improves, right? And then
mhm,
you're maybe better able to say, "I'm having a flare-up with this, and this is what I'm
mhm,
looking for, and I've done this before. This is what worked. This is what didn't," right? That's all lovely, right?
yeah.
But you don't necessarily have to do
Mhm,
that, right? What I usually encourage people to think about when I'm encouraging them to understand their needs is really like, how can you describe what it is that is not working in your life
mhm,
that you think you need support around, right?
mhm,
I'm feeling depressed is perfectly fine.
mhm,
But I see lots of folks who have never been to therapy before.
mhm,
Right? It's a thing that I'm happy to do. I enjoy doing. And so it is not uncommon for someone to be on the phone with me and say, like, I honestly don't know what I want therapy for. I just know that,
mhm,
like, this is not working, right? My
mhm,
relationship is not working the way that I want it to be working. My life is not working the way that I want it to be working, right? Work or whatever is not
mhm,
working. A part of my job as a
mhm.
therapist who is committing to working with people who've never been to therapy before is helping you define what it is that you are looking for. And we will
Yeah.
do that through the early phase of the process. The
Mhm.
caveat that I will add, though, is if you do not know what you want to come to therapy for, please be patient so that we can figure it out, right?
Figure
I
it
think a
out.
lot of
Yeah.
people have this assumption
Yeah.
that, like, I'm going to come to therapy and be like,
And
my
it's
life
gonna
is not
fix my
working.
life, and it's
And then we're
like,
just going to
no.
jump in with both feet. And it's
No,
like,
that's not
I
how
am
it
going
goes.
to ask you
Yeah.
some questions, right? We're going to spend the whole first session. If you come to me, we're going to spend the whole first session figuring out, like, who are you? What is going on with you? How did you grow up? Like, I'm going to ask you tons of questions about yourself
Yeah.
so that I can begin to put it together around, like, what's going on?
Mm. And I will wake that up and say,
Mhm.
like, and if you know that you are not in a space to talk about some of that, you get to be honest about that.
A
If you know
100%.
100, it doesn't mean, man, now that, Jason is saying that, like, oh man, and I got to talk about my family. I don't want to talk about that. Be honest about that,
Mhm.
right? Because something that
Mhm.
I know that I do is, hey, if there is things that you're not ready to talk about because this is a socially awkward thing. You don't know me.
Mhm.
I am not going to tell you much about me. You're not going to know me in depth like I will know you in depth in the same way. We have a
Yeah.
therapeutic alliance, a therapeutic relationship, and that means that you are center stage a lot of the time. That may
Mhm.
not feel natural to you
Yeah.
because this is just very new for you in general. This is a new environment. This is something new that you're doing. And so there may be areas that you are like, I don't think I trust you all the way yet with that.
Yeah, which is
Please tell me.
perfectly fine.
And that's
Yeah.
perfectly fine, and I
Mhm.
think if you already know, "Hey, I know that I want to have someone be patient with me as I build up my trust so that I can talk about the deeper things. However, if you feel like you need to spend the first 3 sessions telling me about your dog and your cat and the way that your life works and you went to work that day and what were you thinking and how were you dealing and about your coworker Jim, and that's what we do for the first 3 sessions until you feel more comfortable to be like, "And you know what? I also think that this relationship with Jim reminds me of my relationship with my brother over here."
Mm. Mhm.
If that takes the first 3 sessions, 4 sessions, 5 sessions, if it takes some time, okay. So
Yeah.
I think it's important for you to understand where your pitfalls may be, and I don't even wanna say pitfalls, where your hesitation or protectiveness may be, what
Yeah.
topics your protectiveness may be around, because that is very helpful for you to know. It's also very helpful for the therapist to know, right?
100%. I say all the
Yeah.
time to folks, my job is not to make people talk about things they don't wanna talk about,
Yep, that's not my
right?
job. That's not why I'm
So,
here.
what I would prefer, because it gives me the most information to work with, is for you
Mhm.
to tell me, "I don't want to talk about that today,"
Yes.
or
Eh,
for the
for the
foreseeable future.
for the foreseeable future until I'm
Right?
ready to talk about it,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, and
Uh,
then that helps me
yeah,
understand. Now, if
yeah.
you come to therapy for depression and you say, "I won't talk about my depression for the foreseeable future," I didn't know that that's gonna work that great,
Yeah.
but I am not
I
going to force you to talk about your depression.
Yes,
I know what
yes.
we're gonna talk about, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we gotta ask then,
Yeah,
and I think allowing curiosity to be a guide, right?
yeah,
Your therapist has to get to know you, and if that is something that is very uncomfortable for you, then you do get to ask if this is the medium for you to do the therapeutic thing that you think you need to do. And I
yeah,
always start here. No therapist, no good therapist, I will say, is here to fix you. I say it all the time. I don't give advice. Why? Because then if that advice does not work specifically for you, one, absolutely, you get to have a
mhm,
right to be upset. 2, I am then handing the autonomy that you had when you walked in is now no longer the autonomy that you have when you walk out. That's
yeah,
how I'll say it, right?
yeah.
Because
I
if I am telling
usually
you step by
mhm.
step what to do, then your autonomy is no longer yours, and that is just not a good way, in my opinion, to practice therapy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
always say I don't experience the consequences of your actions and choices, right? So it is
I
not for
don't live
me to
with you
tell you. You will
24/7.
never hear me say
Yep.
stop talking to your mom. You will never hear me say break up with your partner. You will
Mhm.
never hear me say any of those things because I do not experience the consequences of your choices, right?
I'm
My
going
role
to
is to
ask
help
you what's the
you
cost of this?
explore
Yes,
all of these
explore all
things
these
and make
things.
choices eyes open.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you what is the cost of this relationship to you? And is the cost worth
Mhm.
it? And if you do decide to continue with said relationship or said thing that is causing this amount of friction or tension in your life, what does that mean for your self-care?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
does that mean for you being able to care for yourself? Not just in a functional, physical way, but just emotionally, mentally. It's important for you to know that so you know the reality for you so that it's no longer in the dark. What I do is I shine lights on things that maybe you couldn't see before.
100%. Yeah, and then
Right?
you
And then
do
you
what
decide
you want with those things.
what you
Yeah.
wanna do with those
Hmm.
things. "Hey, Felicia just shined a light over there. I know that there's that dark shadowy place that Mufasa warned me about. I know that's how it feels to me, and she pointed it out. I don't think I wanna go down there yet. I think I wanna stay on Pride Rock where I feel a little comfortable, but I do know it's over there.
Hmm.
I know the elephant graveyard is over there. Felicia showed me where it was." I'm not gonna be like Simba and Nala, and I just can't wait to be king myself over there. I'm not gonna do that. I don't think I'm
It's
ready for it.
hilarious.
Or maybe I will do that, and I want her to be Zazu, and I'm not gonna make her be hemmed up with the elephants, and I'm actually gonna have her follow me out there so we know what to do.
So I think we all know that Felicia watched Lion King last night.
Yes,
Um,
it's my
let's
favorite
go
Disney
to step
movie.
2.
It's my favorite Disney movie.
How it's a great movie. My favorite Disney movie is The Great Mouse Detective, but I think
Oh,
The
that's
Lion
a
King is a good choice. Yeah.
classic, and every time I forget that you're older than me, and I'm like, "Oh, wow."
Wow. Okay. See, this is
I'm just like,
everybody sees it.
well, yeah, now it's really blatant. And I
Everybody
just
sees
wanna
it.
point out, it's because it's we did the "What's Happening" segment, and I have this water bottle that I pour out, and Jason
It
at the
is
end was like,
very
"Wow,
large.
like, it's a really large water bottle," and I'm like, "Well,
It's
yeah,"
yeah.
because I was like, "Oh, thank you," and he was like, "Oh, you thought it was a
I was
compliment."
happy for it to be a compliment. I didn't mean it as one, but I was happy for it to be received that way.
So so when Jason gets hits on when we're filming and when things are live, understand that it's probably a reaction to something that happened off camera, so I'm
Mm-mm.
glad you
That's
guys are
what bullies
seeing it
say.
in
No
real time.
one knows how I am bullied off camera. No one knows.
It's not even bullying. I just be like, "Okay, so you tease me as a little sister. That's cool. Yes, I drink my water, and that's why
I'm glad that you're
I look
drinking
as
more
young as
water.
I do."
That's right.
Huh?
That's right.
Yeah.
You got great skin thanks to all the water that you're drinking out of that
I don't
big
know
ass
about
water
great
bottle.
skin, but I got good filters, but I do stay hydrated. I do stay hydrated. Yeah.
Oh, hilarious. Okay, we're gonna get back on
Yes.
track. How okay, step 2 is really how you are going to pay for therapy, right? And
Mm.
so it seems complex, but the
Oof.
reality is there are really only 3 ways to pay for therapy.
Yeah.
One is self-pay, one is insurance, and one is kind of a hybrid of that. And so
Model.
that the
Mhm.
hybrid area is where things maybe get complicated.
Yeah.
Um, Self-pay just means you're going to pay out of pocket, right? I
Mhm.
say I charge $225 an hour for therapy, which is true. And then you say, okay, I have
Okay. I'm
$225. I'm going to
to
give
pay
it to you.
you.
Yep.
Mhm.
I'm going
Mhm.
to take it out of I'm going to run my credit card, whatever it is, right? Next thing you say, I have Aetna insurance, right? I say, okay, I take Aetna insurance, which is true. And so then you may or may not have a copay, right? That depends on your plan, right? Everybody's plan is a little different. You may or may not
Mhm.
need to hit your deductible before your
First.
benefits kick in,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Everybody's plan is a little different, and different services have different expectations, right?
Mhm.
And then after that, your insurance will pay me directly, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's you'll pay the copay to me
And
directly,
then they
and
pay
then
the
the
rest.
insurance
Mhm.
plan will pay the rest of it.
Mhm.
Sometimes you don't have a copay. That's actually pretty rare these days in terms of healthcare plans that you don't have any
Mhm.
copay at all.
Mhm.
Um, but yes, sometimes you do have insurance, but you're still trying to meet your deductible. And so then you are functionally doing self pay. And so this is, I think,
Yes.
this is the first
This is
caveat
what
that
gets
I point out
people,
to folks,
yeah. Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Is that you need to understand how
Your
your
insurance
insurance
plan.
plan covers mental health services.
Yes.
Because if it is you have to hit your deductible before your co-insurance kicks in, then you are functionally doing self-pay. You are going to
Yeah.
pay my full rate out of pocket until you hit your deductible, and then your insurance plan is going to kick in.
And here's what I also will say, because there are some folks who there are some plans also, and I'll add this as a caveat, that will give their us as therapists a rate
Yeah.
that we can charge, right? So Blue
Yes.
Cross Blue Shield gives me a rate that I can charge when someone has to hit their deductible. So you may have insurance plans and they will say, well, this is your rate that we have contracted with the
Mhm.
therapist that they can charge you. They cannot so if so for example, my full rate is 180, right? If Blue Cross Blue Shield comes back and says like, "Nah, fam," and they do. We're not giving you 180. But we can give you 116 or 113. That is the rate that you can charge people who have their deductible. Then that is what I have to do. That is what your therapist has to do
Yeah.
because that is the contract that they have with the insurance company. Insurance is diabolical and it is the bane of everybody's existence, not just yours as a therapy seeker, but
Yeah.
us too as therapists who
Yeah.
take it.
It's hard for us too.
Right. So
Mhm.
it's very hard on all parties involved, and so when we get to this talk about like, "Oh, therapy should be free," and, what how do you expect us to eat and feed our families,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
please know that insurance is seriously undercharging a lot of therapeutic services, meaning that they are not reimbursing people at the rate in which not only did they go to school, but the certifications that you guys are looking for. Meaning, if you're looking for an EMDR therapist, if you're looking for a somatic therapist, if you're looking for someone who is trained in IFS, brain spotting, all of those things cost your therapist thousands of dollars in training. Not only that, the insurance company is not paying that back to them,
Right. There
right?
is no incentive other than we enjoy these models. We think they're helpful for the clients that we see, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Right. There
Yeah.
is no coverage from
There's
insurance.
no
Right. And there
coverage for,
is no, I
yes.
think it's also worth saying there is no differential. Right. So
No,
it's like I do trauma work, but I don't have these certifications. And so I get one rate, and you
no.
do trauma work and you have some of the certifications. So you get a higher rate. That does not exist.
That does not
Right.
exist.
Within
It
the
is
world
based
of
off of your
insurance. Yeah.
education level.
Mhm.
Yeah, the education level will give master's level a particular rate. They will give PhD levels a particular rate. In
Yeah.
some cases, what we're seeing with Aetna, they just said, we don't give a fuck anymore. Take whatever rate we give you. Right.
Yeah.
Insurance is very diabolical. So when you guys are thinking about, some questions that I know that we typically get around episodes like these is like, well, why does it have to cost it all? Man, we live in a capitalist society.
You sure do. I have bills. I have a 4-year-old. I mean, he only eats quesadillas, but tortillas and cheese cost money. In this economy, listen.
Yeah, and also and that's not to say that we don't wanna be accessible, right? Jason and me have had a beautiful consultation session around my bleeding heart and what that means for me living in the DMV area, which for
That's
those who
true.
do not know, that is I live in Metro DC area. I live 45 minutes outside of DC. I live 40 minutes outside of Baltimore. I live in PG County. It's expensive.
Mhm.
Expensive. It's not even expensive.
You
I
can't
can't
afford the
even
X.
can't even afford it. That costs $50. Don't have it. It's just expensive. It's just expensive.
It's expensive. You
It's just
gotta cut off
expensive. So
the E and
s
the X so that we can afford.
yeah, so
Yeah.
when it comes to cost, know that it's a very unfortunate High School Musical. We're all in this together,
Yep.
and we're all trying to figure it out.
Mhm.
And so please think about when you choose your insurance plans, if mental health is important to you, really ask those questions because we are still living in an age where insurance companies do think that mental health is not a part of regular healthcare. They do look at mental health as a luxury service. And so when you're frustrated that a therapist does not take insurance, it's not because they are not thinking of you. It is because it is such a hassle to take it. It is
Yeah.
such a hassle to take it. So please understand that when it comes to cost, if you are and I will wake it all the way up, if you know that you about to, save up for that new Telfar, maybe you could throw a couple dollars towards the mental health fund. If you know that you like to spend high for certain things, maybe you could throw that to a mental health fund so that you can get the therapist not only that you deserve, but that you actually really want,
Mhm. Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
especially if they're self-pay. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll just quickly sort of hit on the third, which is the hybrid method. And really what
Mhm.
this looks like is some other entity
Mhm.
pays for part
No.
or all of your services
Yeah, like
for
EAP or
some length
your
of time. Yeah. So there
employer.
are a lot of
Mhm,
different
mhm,
versions of that. Felicia mentioned EAP, that's an employee assistance program.
mhm,
So for some jobs, some people have jobs who offer EAPs who don't know about it. So this is
mhm,
something to ask your HR folks. Like if you have an EAP, can they send you
mhm,
information about your EAP? Again, that's your employee assistance program. And how I have seen them generally work is, as a part of buying into the EAP, your company then allows you to have. I've seen it used to be 6. I've seen
mhm,
3 more commonly be the
mhm,
case. Sometimes it's even more than that, right? Depending
mhm.
on who the company is contracted with. But when you have EAP benefits, you can go and see a therapist for something that in a way that is fully covered. So
Mhm,
then the negotiation or the contract happens between the therapist and your EAP company,
mhm,
right? And so then you do not have to pay out of pocket, right, for
mhm,
therapy for however many sessions your EAP covers.
mhm,
Um, other ways of that, at the top of, the episode, Felicia mentioned things like, the Loveland Foundation.
Mhm.
There are other, types of area, foundations. Open Path Collective is one that I
Mhm.
think is a really interesting and unique scenario where you pay a small monthly rate and then you gain access to therapists who have agreed to take a lower rate intentionally to support folks who cannot
Mhm.
afford, right, to pay out of pocket for therapy or have insurance plans that have really high deductibles,
Mhm.
right? And again, you would pay for therapy out of pocket in that scenario, but there's been a pre-negotiated
Yeah,
reduction
right.
in the rate.
You're not paying as
Yeah,
much. Yeah.
maybe you'll pay $20 a session, right, as
Yeah.
opposed to $200 a session, right, that
Mhm.
kind of thing. And so
Mhm.
there are a lot of things there. So sometimes you need to have experienced certain kinds of things, like Loveland Foundation, I believe, is if you have been traumatized.
I don't think so. Well, I don't know if it's changed. I used
Okay.
to
Mm,
in the beginning, what I will say is that Loveland Foundation, you would have to put yourself on a wait list.
mm.
And so I think the only caveat really was that you identify as a black woman,
Oh,
right? And
got it.
that you
Okay.
are a
Yeah.
black woman. So that was the only caveat.
I am
It's to
confusing
help.
that with a different program.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that's a different program.
Yep.
I also know that even here in the state of Maryland, we have the Pro Bono Collective. I know that they've reached out to me a couple of times, and I've had to tell them, like, as Jason knows, I have pro bono clients already. So I
A lot. Mhm.
Okay. So I have pro bono client. I mean, you have to put my business out there in the street like that, but I have pro bono clients already. And so, but they are really good. Like if you are truly in a situation where you cannot pay for services, then yeah, like you can go to
Mhm.
the pro bono collective. I think, I only know that they operate here in Maryland, but yeah, Loveland Foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's several options and we will
Mhm.
try to link them all in the show description notes, but it's important to know that like there are options if you want options for therapy, right?
Yep.
And so cost doesn't necessarily need to be a barrier. This could be a great question for yourself as well if you are a therapy seeker of like, okay, if I really want to get real and I really want to do this and I really want to have longevity because I have these goals of really understanding myself in this particular way, is there something that I can set aside and commit to like my own therapy fund if the therapist I really want to work with is self pay only?
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
I also will shout out the idea of graduate training clinics. So this is something that
Yes.
is often unique to doctoral level programs. Not that master's
Mm-hmm.
level programs are good. They doctoral folks are around for longer, and so it makes more sense to have a clinic like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, the way that it works is the clinic provides low cost, sometimes pro bono services to the community,
Mm-hmm.
and the value to the clinic of doing that is all of the therapists are getting trained to be therapists. So I was the director of one of those clinics for several years. I've been a supervisor in that clinic and other clinics on and off in my career for probably 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting someone who is in training, but they are supervised by a licensed clinical psychologist who's paying very close
Mm-hmm.
attention to their work and that kind of thing. That is also an option, right? If you're in
Mm-hmm.
a pinch and you need someone to do therapy with, that's a great way of getting access to
Yep.
affordable, evidence based therapy.
And that's how I started
Yeah.
as well. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I started as well with Medicaid clients and with those who were just gonna pay a already contracted low rate. And I think that that's also I did it with Shepherd Pratt. That was the internship that I did mine through when I was
Yeah.
finishing up my degree, and I think it's really lovely, and you get to work with folks who are really wanting to learn, but also very much so going to give you all of their like, they are going to give you the best that they have, and they also are going to be able to give you even more than that because you also have someone like reviewing their work and saying like, okay, why
Yep.
don't we try this? Why don't we try
Mhm.
this? And so please don't knock it till you try
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you can get great therapy there.
Yeah.
I'm totally biased.
Absolutely.
I ran that clinic for a long
Yeah.
time. I'm totally biased. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you decide who you want to see. Do you need a black therapist? Do you need Let's
Yeah,
get into it.
let's wake it up. And so we are not saying black therapists as opposed to Latina, as opposed to Asian, as opposed to indigenous. Me and Jason identify as black folk. And so that is the lens that we're coming from, but please
Mhm.
insert your own here.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think that this is a good place to talk about the discourse that I did send to you.
Yeah.
But first, let me start here. I think I said this at the top where I said my perspective is a black therapist or a person of color, indigenous, whoever, whatever therapist of color with no skill for what you actually need is not automatically your person. I think that that is important. So if you know that you have a preference to work with someone who is of the same gender, of the same race, of the same sexual orientation as you, understand that that alone is not proof that they are automatically your therapist or they are a good fit for you. A culturally humble therapist who truly gets your language might be that, both of those things can be true at the same time, of course. So I do want to get like a little practical with that. And so there was recently, I don't know if I would call it discourse, but I guess there was some discourse
Mhm.
as a but like I don't want to say between these two therapists, but they are very well known. So I do want to talk about it, and I want to say up front, for me, what my focus is on is that both of them centered research, and this is why I really wanted to talk about this. It wasn't about vibes or hot takes. It was really about research, and
Yeah.
I think
What does the
research
data
is
tell us?
what does the
Mhm.
data tell us about this thing? And it matters, especially when we're talking about Black folk, Indigenous folk, people of color trying to find care that actually fits, as I said at the top. So there is a therapist that goes by the name of Raquel, the capacity expert. I did not know their last name until today, which is Raquel Hopkins. And they were saying that research doesn't show that sharing race or gender with your therapist makes you better just because you're more comfortable. So they were comparing comfort with effectiveness. She was
Mhm.
saying, well, comfort is not the same as effectiveness. What research points to is actually whether a therapist is culturally competent inside of the therapeutic relationship. And then I looked, there was some questions about that because I think the hot take was like, oh, just because someone is a Black therapist or the same race or the same gender, that doesn't mean that they're an effective therapist. And I don't know if that hot take was meant to just be a clickbait, or I don't even know if that even fully belongs to Raquel, the capacity expert, or if that's just what became the hot take because
Mm.
that's what someone took from it. And it just kind of gained a lot of traction. So Dr. Raquel Martin came back with some of her research and her pointers saying, like, well, nobody's research ever claimed that shared identity alone equals competence, and no research ever claims shared identity means better outcomes by itself, right?
Yeah.
There's no research that supports that. So she said that for her, comfort versus effectiveness to her is a false dichotomy, right? Because the best outcomes come from the therapeutic alliance as a whole, right? And the therapeutic alliance includes not just the therapeutic relationship, but you also have to look at how you as a therapist are working with this person to ensure that they feel comfortable enough to get the work that they say they want to get done,
Yeah.
right? So the effectiveness piece is actually from the therapeutic alliance. That's the actual working reliance between you and your therapist, the trust, agreements on goals, and the felt sense that this person is with you every step of the way to get to said goals. And so I think for me, what really stuck with me is that Dr. Raquel also brought up research that when asking Black patients why they specifically wanted Black therapists,
Yeah.
they said, I don't want to have to over explain my experience. I don't want to be afraid that I won't be believed. I want my cultural experiences understood without me having to do a whole TED talk first, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's about skin as a shortcut. I think that that's really about safety and trust. And as we talked about in part one, how we even came into the field of psychology, how we were even considered in the field of psychology, there's a lot of mistrust for Black folk. There's a
Yeah.
lot of mistrust for people of color in general and people who belong to the global majority. So I think the ingredients of the alliance itself allows someone to feel comfortable. And so what I would say is, like, for me, if you have a preference for a Black therapist, if you have a preference for a therapist of the same race or of the same gender, then I think that yes, that is where you can start, and also know that that preference alone may not make a good fit.
That's right. Yeah. I'm a great therapist. I'm not a great therapist because I am Black, right? I am not a great therapist for Black couples because I am Black,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? There are Black couples that I have met and or worked with who I did
Mhm.
not click with, right? Or they
Mhm.
didn't click with
Mhm.
me because I
Mhm.
wasn't the right fit for them,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so I think if you take this as, okay, so what do I do with this information? It's
Mhm.
seek comfort, seek
Mhm.
fit, right?
Mhm.
So I'm perfectly fine to encourage you if you've, so I have had I love being in therapy. Every therapist I've ever had has been like, "What if you stop coming?" And I'm like, "Nah."
No, I
Right?
will never
So
stop coming.
I
Yeah.
refuse. Next question.
Right.
Um, I've had wonderful white therapists. I've
Mm.
had truly excellent Black therapists, right? I've also been very lucky in my therapeutic journey.
I'm
I've
glad
had
because I was like,
really
"Oh,
good
that's
therapists. Not everybody has that
not everybody
experience,
has those
right?
experiences."
And
Yeah.
so seek comfort and seek fit. Do you feel like you can sit across from this person, either in
Mhm.
person or on the screen, whatever the scenario is,
Mhm.
and be open and honest about what is going on with you? Yes
Mhm.
or no? Right. I will
Mhm.
also say that, like any relationship that you've ever built,
Mhm.
therapeutic relationships sometimes take time, right? So I
Yes.
always sort of describe it as there are people in your life who you met instantly and you clicked instantly,
Mhm.
right? There are people in your life who you met instantly and you did not click instantly. And it's like, I don't like
Mhm.
you and I'm never gonna like you, right? Most people in your life, you
Mhm.
probably are like, I don't know, maybe. And then you
Maybe.
spend some
Mhm.
time, right,
And
with
then
them
it
and you were like,
it was
okay,
something
yeah, or
different.
no, I don't think
Exactly.
so. Therapy
Mhm.
is not any different than that, right? The therapeutic relationship is not any different than that. And so sometimes
Mhm.
it takes a little bit of time. I would also say, like, you don't really need to overinvest in a ton of time. It's like, maybe this will work.
Yeah.
8 sessions in, maybe this will work. 12 sessions
No.
in, I'm really not feeling it. 15 sessions
Yeah.
in, but Jason said maybe one day it'll be better. That is not what I'm
No.
telling you to do,
Mm-mm.
right?
Mm-mm.
If it does not feel like you are willing to try, they're not the right fit for you.
Then they're not the right fit for you.
Find another
Yeah.
therapist,
If
right?
instantly
Yeah.
you're finding yourself it's hard to open up or you're feeling like something about this doesn't feel right, trust that. Trust your
Mhm,
discernment. Right? I
mhm.
think it's also very important and thank you for saying that you're not a great therapist because you are Black. I'm just a great therapist, period. I'm great at what
Yeah.
I do
Mhm.
because I have decided to dedicate myself to what I do and to be great at what I do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because I got
Um,
great training in graduate school. I
yep.
got some frankly, even better training outside of graduate school,
Mhm.
right? So that I can be
So that
effective
I
with the
can
people that I want to work with and I am interested in working with.
and that's a key word, I want to work with,
Mm.
right? Fit is and I will say this for any therapist listening too, fit is just as much about you
Oof. Yeah.
just as much about you as it is about the person coming into your office.
Mhm,
You too have a duty to understand yourself as a clinician, as a therapist, as like like what it is that you do best. And please take the time to understand that so that you, one, don't waste your time, but also don't waste other people's time.
mhm, mhm.
Right?
Yep.
And that does that take time to get to? Yeah, of course. And after a certain period of time, I would say I know by year 5, I was very clear. I was clear
Sure.
before
Mhm.
year 5, but
Yeah,
really truly by year 5, I felt very confident of like, oh, okay, yeah. And
yeah,
mind you, 2.5 of those years was me being like under clinical supervision.
yeah,
Right? And
yeah.
even before that, I was in school under clinical supervision. So I was here, there, and everywhere, and then kind of was like, well, let me not just box myself in. And I didn't. Right. So please explore a therapist. Like if you are coming into this field, whether you're a social worker and this is what you want to do, like I wasn't always a therapist. I did case management. I was in the
Mhm,
hospital. I was in people's homes. I was in substance abuse, transitional houses. I was in homeless shelters. I was all over the place so that I could truly understand for me, like, oh no, this is actually where I want to land. And yeah,
yeah.
right. So that I could be very clear with people who sit across from me so I can know, like, can see what you're looking for and I can see why you probably clicked on my profile. And I know that there is someone with better skills and better XYZ to work with you.
Absolutely. I would also say to
Hmm.
therapists listening, I would say a couple of things. One is that, being aligned helps you be regulated, and being regulated helps you be ethical. That is not
Hmm.
my idea. A friend of a friend got it in a training with a social worker. I will find that person's name and I will send it out. So I know I'm
Please
not taking
do.
credit for her work. I
Please
know that she
do.
offers training around these concepts. And I think that if your what feels aligned,
Hmm.
clinically speaking, can
Hmm.
shift
It
and
can
probably will
shift
shift over
and will shift
time,
over time.
right?
Hmm.
Like, in a perfect world, you would have gotten supervision that helps you understand that, but
Hmm.
if you didn't and you need that, find some other therapist to chat with, right,
Yeah.
about that. I'm happy to be that person, so if
I was
you
gonna
want to
say,
do
I was like, I hope you
consultation,
plug
like,
yourself right now
yeah,
because I was
come
definitely
find
looking at
me.
you.
I'm
So
happy to talk about that with
plug.
you. It is one of my favorite things to talk about.
Yes, he's really
I
good
was
at you
trained
guys.
as a child psychologist. We just
Mhm.
consulted on a case yesterday. It was sort of fun,
Yeah, we did.
over
It
2
was
days
so
ago.
fun. Mhm,
But I was trained as a child psychologist. I now
mm,
see couples. I've worked with individuals. I've done a ton of clinical supervision. I've done a ton of, some coaching. I've done some consulting, right? So I lived many, many lives as a psychologist. I really am
mhm.
happy to chat with people about this. I do think that it's something that we don't spend a ton of time thinking about, which is just
No,
the
we
sense
don't.
that, like, well, we're supposed to take kind of whoever, right, comes through.
Please don't
And
do
that
that.
scarcity
It does
mindset can really push you to take clients that are just not the
yeah.
right fit
And
for
it's
you.
harmful for everybody involved. It
Yes.
it 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 can be very harmful and not harmful in, like, you're being unethical or you don't have a level of integrity. No, like, it's just it's draining, and when you're drained as a therapist, your clients can pick up on that, like, they can see that, they could
Yeah.
feel it, right? So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it's hard, right?
Hmm.
So and it's okay if you didn't know, and,
Yep.
I will say that there is I think that every therapist has maybe done or been a part of that level of harm in some way
Hmm.
because we are all learning, like, we're humans, like,
Oh,
we are
totally.
going to make human error, and that is an error that I think many of us who
Mhm.
come into the field make early on in our careers.
Yeah.
Um,
You don't know what you don't know, right?
yeah,
Sometimes you didn't know that this person would not be a good fit or this issue would not be a good fit until you
exactly,
experienced it.
and
We
mhm,
can deal with that. That's not, that happens. That's
yeah,
okay,
that
right?
happens.
We maybe try not to continue to take those types
Exactly.
of
Yeah.
clients in, right? Because you
It's
know that they're
important
not
to
the right fit
learn
for
from
you.
it
Yeah.
and to figure out like
Yeah.
how do you want to handle it the next time? How do you catch it earlier? How so that it's not such a like energy suck for either you
Hmm.
or the client, right? Because
Yeah.
our clients can tell when we're working hard.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
Like,
So
yeah.
you've sat down and you thought it through. You're ready to prioritize comfort. You're ready to prioritize fit.
Yes.
ready to prioritize effectiveness. How are
Mm.
we finding therapists? How do you tell people how to find therapists?
Beautiful. So I think the first step is once you know all of these things that we named, that Jason named early, like you know how much, hey, you got a budget for if
Mhm,
you're going to pay out of pocket. Hey, or if you have your insurance. So, and then you know the issues that you want to particularly work on, whether it's like, okay, relationships or like there's something in your childhood or, hey, I'm having some questions around my sexuality. Beautiful. You
mhm,
can go on to a directory. I know the most popular directory is Psychology Today, but I will be very, very honest with people. They do hide people of color's profile. I stand by that. They've been doing it for a really long time. It's very hard sometimes to find us, right? Unless you specifically put in that you want a Black therapist or a person of color specifically, but it
yeah,
still can be very hard to find people of color. And then on top of that, so I will plug Psychology Today. I think they're the most well-known one to just so that you guys are aware. However, I think if you are trying to find um, other folks who are more aligned or of the global majority, I would say inclusive therapists.
yeah,
If you know that cost is a barrier, I would say Open Path Collective. So
yeah,
there are directories.
mhm,
There are directories for if you are queer. It is called the NC. Let me see if I can find that.
yeah. While you're looking for that, I'll shout out,
Yep.
Therapy for Black Girls
Therapy for Black
is
girls as
really
well.
popular. Mhm. And
Yep.
it's not just female therapists on Therapy for Black Girls, there are male therapists, not as many. But that we should just say, right, like,
Yes.
if you were looking for a therapist, you are more than
Mm,
likely to find a
mm.
woman therapist, right?
Yes, we
Because
could talk more
across
about that.
all
Yeah.
therapeutic disciplines,
Mhm.
I think in psychology specifically, we are something like 80 to 85%
Mm.
women.
Yeah. Same, I think it's even
Mhm.
more in social work, and
Okay,
so,
yeah,
if you're
mhm.
a male and you've been thinking like, "Okay, can I?" Yes, you can, like,
Oh, you totally can.
you totally
Yeah.
can, which is why
It's
I wanted,
a yeah.
Jason to
I
do this
love
podcast.
being
Yeah,
a therapist. I've been a therapist for
he's
a
a
while
great one.
now.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
I really enjoy it. I think that there is something that people really like about having a male therapist. I will
Yeah,
also say all of these identity matters are the same, right? I am not a good therapist because I'm a man,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
There are people who come to me specifically. I hear this all the time, right? A
Mhm,
couple will call me. It's almost always the woman in the partnership who calls me.
mhm.
That's a whole nother conversation. And will say,
Mhm,
I want to see you because my husband, my boyfriend, my partner
mhm.
assumes that a woman therapist will be on my side and not on his
Yes.
side. Right. And so
Mhm,
being a man brings a lot of clients in to the door. Right.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
But I'm not man therapying. Right. I'm just,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say you start with the and to add on to that, I think also, like, it is not irrational to seek comfort in a way with something that you are like, "Well, I feel this way, I think this
Hmm.
way,"
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
allow the professional to be able to kind of not burst that bubble, but essentially that's what a good professional will do to be like, "Hey, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What makes you think that someone of the same gender who would be on your wife's side, and what does it even mean to be on your wife's side? Like,
Yeah.
what side is she holding to you
Hmm.
that you feel that you won't be seen properly or effectively in the therapeutic relationship when you come into couples counseling, right? You would
Absolutely.
have, regardless of whether it is a man or a woman, would ask that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Hmm.
I think when you're starting to ask, like, okay, how do I find a therapist? I think asking yourself that is important, but and also questioning, like, oh, do I feel like I'm going to get better care with a man versus a woman?
Yeah.
Because that may not necessarily be the truth. And I think that's
Yeah, that might
important to
not be
name.
true.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly think it's, if you are there can be a lot of things to unpack there.
Yeah.
Also, I think of therapy as a rolling process, right? And
It's
so
like
it might
dating.
be that yeah, it truly is,
Yeah.
right? You
It's
come
like
to
dating.
me and we do some work together and we
Mm-hmm.
spend some time unpacking your ideas about like what
Mm-hmm.
women can be, should be,
Mm-hmm.
are or are not. And then
Mm-hmm.
maybe in your next go round with therapy, you feel more open to seeing a
To seeing
therapist who is
someone
a
else.
woman,
Yeah.
right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is, that's a perfectly fine option. I'll just go back to this idea of directories. And if you are a deep dive researcher
Yeah.
and you figured out that there's a kind of what we call them modalities, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy,
Thank you for
internal
bringing
family
that up.
systems,
Mm-hmm.
EMDR, right? When there are training bodies that offer these certifications, they
Yes.
often have
They have their
directories
own
that therapists who
directories.
have done. So if you're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm specifically looking for someone
For
trained in
mm-hmm.
EMDR,
You can
you
go
can
to Indria.
go, yeah, to
Mm-hmm.
Indria, which offers, there are other places that offer it too. You can go to
Mm-hmm.
the Cognitive Behavioral Institute, right, and
Mm-hmm.
see like, okay, who's been trained in CBT, who's been trained in IFS, who's
Mm-hmm.
been trained in Gottman, right, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. They're optional, not all. So, for example, I'm not on the Gottman. You would not find me on the Gottman registry,
And
although
you
if
Don't
since
find
I
me on
had gotten
Imdria.
couples therapy.
Yeah.
But there are therapists who are there. So if you're looking for something specific like that, that's the best way of finding someone who has been trained
Yeah.
in a particular way of doing therapy, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I know so I will say for those who are queer and a part of the LGBTQIA2S plus community, I may not be saying that right or in the right order, but I call us the alphabet mafia. So
Yeah.
if you're part of the alphabet mafia, like myself, the National Queer and Trans Therapists of Color Network is
Mm,
really good. And I know that it's still maybe new to some folks, but it is an awesome, awesome directory. And they also have a lot of affirming therapists of color on there. So you can find people there. If you are looking for people of color specifically, you can find inclusive therapists
mhm.
that they have like a beautiful directory. They also show you where there's community events going on in your
Yeah.
area. If you, you know, I've had put holding space on there at one time. Like I've seen other colleagues put their things on there, you know, that they offer to the community groups and things like that. If you're like, I don't know if I want to take the deep dive, if you know that like maybe I do want something therapeutic, I don't know if I'm ready for individual therapy, then group therapy may be a place that you would like to start if you would like to be a part
Yeah.
of a therapeutic group. And so inclusive therapists host those there. There is the Beam Network. I know that they have
Mhm.
they're really more popular on the West Coast, specifically LA, but they do offer like online trainings as well. And so there are a host of folks that are looking out for people of color, Black folks, Indigenous folks, non Black people of color specifically. And I think just even doing a search, you know, putting in the Google search, I would like a Black professional. I know AI is starting to be on the rise. You can, you know, a lot of therapists are like fitting their website so that they'll show up in chat GPT searches.
Yeah.
I know that that's a bit controversial, but it is happening.
Yeah.
And so, and even social media, right? I know that's also controversial, but more and more therapists are defaulting to visibility on social media so that you can find them. Sometimes you can go on LinkedIn and you can find people that way. You can go on Instagram, find people that way, go on TikTok, find people that way.
Yeah.
So there's so many ways that you can get access to a therapist. And I think, you know, going back to this idea that therapist is like dating, there's like several questions. If you go on, you know, you can treat some of these directories like a dating app, I guess, if you would like to, a therapeutic dating app. And so some questions to really ask yourself, not just why you think you need therapy, as I said before, please go deeper than that. Like, who gets your language? So when you're
Mhm.
looking at a profile, like the language that they use when they're describing themselves or what's on their website, does that feel aligned with you? Like, who do you think will be able to hear how you actually talk about your life in the way that they talk about who they are as a professional,
Yeah.
right? Um, are you able to receive? And a separate question, are you willing to receive, right? Because those are not the same. So when you go to a profile, do you feel like you'd be able to receive from that person based off how they're talking about themselves? And you can also set up a consultation, which I know we probably should touch on for 2 seconds as well. But
Yeah. Yeah.
how do you
We
even
will.
perceive
Mhm.
therapy, right? Like, who did your family, your church, your culture teach you about what happens in a therapeutic room? And is that a barrier? Is that something that you want to think about? Does this person address that? Do you feel like this person is addressing that when you look at them? Um, yeah, like, and is individual therapy, like I said earlier, the right door? Maybe you want group therapy. Maybe there's for you, a lower stakes cost to getting into a
Mhm.
therapeutic environment without feeling like you have to take the high stakes of being across from like one person and just kind of being like, oof, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that
Hmm.
that's important, and so I'll double tap that and just say, before you might want to order a workbook,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And work your way through a
Mm,
workbook, a guided
mhm,
journal, right?
mhm,
You might want to do a workshop, right? That's maybe
mhm,
a 1 to 3 hour, let's talk about your
mhm,
relationship. Let's talk about this in a large group of people so you
mhm.
maybe don't feel as singled out, right? So
Yep.
there is a continuum of care,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Individual therapy, weekly therapy fits into that continuum of care. There are higher levels of care and lower levels of care. And
Mhm,
so I think it's just figuring out sort of where do I want to start, what helps me feel prepared. You don't
mhm.
have to jump immediately into ongoing therapy if that does
Yeah.
not feel like the right place to start. And so just for the sake of time, we can transition to like when you are ready to reach out, how do you want to go about reaching out?
Yeah.
I would say, first and foremost, I did not write my website because I love writing internet copy.
Ooh,
I wrote my
child,
website
no.
because it will help you understand who I am and how my practice works and what you can
Mhm,
expect and how much things cost and whether I take your insurance or blah, 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 blah. I
mhm,
think something that is really most therapists feel overworked, right? When times are hard,
mhm.
therapists are busy, right? And times they've been hard,
They've been
right?
hard,
So
y'all.
lots of
Mhm,
therapists are getting tons of inbound calls,
mhm,
right? If you like call and don't leave your name, if you call and don't leave a callback number, if you call and don't say what you want, right? Like it is not hard to get to a place. I try really hard not to get to this place therapeutically, right?
Mhm.
Is if you call me, I'm going to do my level best to call you back. But I have heard plenty of therapists say, like, if you call me and you don't come correct, I'm not calling you back. I don't have time for that. I don't want
Mm.
to do that, right? If they say call this number, call that number. If they say send me an email, send
Please
them an
send them an
email,
email.
right? If they
Mhm.
say fill out this form on my website, fill out the form on their website, right? Because if my process is I route everyone through my website, I want to make sure people understand what they're getting into, and you just call me out of the blue on the phone, I will pick up the phone. Well, I won't pick up the phone. I'm working, but I will call you back when I have a
Mhm,
chance to call
mhm,
you back.
mhm, mhm.
Like that's okay, but other therapists will not do that. And so
Yeah.
I would hate for you to lose out on someone who you think would be the right fit for you, right?
Mhm.
Because they said send me an email and you felt more comfortable doing it over the phone, right?
Yeah.
Some of that also goes into the question of fit, right?
Yeah,
So
because I was
that's something
gonna
to think
say,
about
like,
too.
this is also about, like, we do know this is boundary work starting really from
Hmm.
how a therapist is asking to be engaged with. And so what I would add as a because I know that I will do that. I am, and it's not from a judgmental piece. It's this is a therapeutic alliance, meaning this is still a relationship. So
Hmm.
if I am asking you to honor my process of things, because I know that I'm going to do my best to honor your process of things, and we can't even get through the door from the basis of how I'm asking you to contact me for a consultation,
Yeah.
that is free for me, right? And we can talk a bit more about that in a second because I know that's coming
Hmm.
up, but that is going to really impede the way that I feel that I would be a good fit for you. Because if it's still trying to push my boundary to do what you would like me to do, guys, we are still human.
Hmm.
We are still human at the end of the day.
Hmm.
We have processes for that reason. And fit is just as much about us too as the therapist as it is about you guys. Right.
Yep.
So
Yep.
as the folks who are when I say you guys therapy seekers, right?
Yes.
Because language is important. So
Hmm. Hmm.
it has to be symbiotic, and symbiotic starts,
It
okay, can
does.
you follow what our process is?
Yes.
Because those processes exist for a reason because we know ourselves.
Hmm.
We know ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Mhm.
think the other thing I would add is please do your best to be responsive.
Yeah.
Right?
As a
So if
therapist, please do.
you yes, as a
Yeah.
I'm talking
Mhm.
about therapists, but I'm also talking about
About
therapy
yeah,
seekers,
therapy
right?
seekers,
If
yeah.
you call me and say, "Hey, I really need therapy," and I call you back and I don't hear from you for a week,
Or a month or 2 months.
right? Like
Mhm.
that's fine if
That's
you
your
right, but
prerogative.
keep in mind I people don't like to think about it this way, but I sell a service. I'm not
Mhm.
chasing you,
Not only that,
right?
there's other people who want the same service as you do, and books get
Absolutely.
full.
And it is first come,
Mhm.
first serve.
First come,
Right? Not
first serve.
everybody
Yeah.
keeps a wait list, and not everybody's
Mhm.
wait list is first come, first serve, right? So that's something to
Yes.
keep in mind,
Yep.
right? So if I call you back and I have an opening, right? I have a small practice because I also have a full-time job. So it is not hard for me to be full,
Mhm.
right? And so if I'm juggling multiple referrals at the same time, it is first come, first serve,
Mm.
right? I think the other thing is it is a great proof of motivation and engagement,
Yes,
right?
of
What does it
mhm.
mean if I have to call you 6 times for the therapy you told me you wanted?
Yeah, and there are many therapists, especially in the season of America
Hmm.
250 that we are in now, who cannot and do not have the capacity to work harder than the therapy seeker.
100%.
And
Yeah.
will not. That
Mhm.
is a boundary. I have that boundary. I know many other of my colleagues have
I
that
also have
boundary.
that boundary. Yep.
I cannot and will not
Mhm.
work harder than you because you said that you wanted services or the ways that I can be in a therapeutic alliance with you.
Mhm.
And so you are asking me for my expertise, which is walking you through the land of you in the ways that you want to be walked through it. I am not going to be able to work harder than you in
Yeah.
that because I am not seeking myself out. And that's not meant to, I know sometimes that lands in people's spaces sometimes is like, oh, well, then no, I do not think I'm better than you. I do not. I
Mhm.
went to school to do a particular thing that you say that you would like me to do for you. And then when you drop the ball does stop on the court.
Yep.
Wherever you stop on the path, I too have to stop.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
again, I am not responsible for the consequences of whatever actions you do. I don't suffer them.
Yeah.
I don't have to go through
Yeah.
that because I
And
am not you. Yeah.
I'll add just as we move to close that also, like, just to be clear, also not holding that against you,
No, not
right?
at all.
So for
Yeah.
lots of reasons, now is not the right time for
Yeah.
you. That's
And
perfectly
and and
fine.
that's really where
I'm not
therapists leave
saying
it. Yeah.
you didn't answer my call that one time and I never want to hear from you again.
No.
When you're ready, call me back. And if I'm
But some
open,
people
I'm
do take
happy to talk to you.
and I'm happy to talk to you and
Yeah,
see
that's
if we can fit
perfectly
and or
fine.
tell you like, "Hey, we may not be a fit
Mhm.
at this time because this is what I have going on and I'm honestly full and I won't have space."
Mhm.
But that And I hope that that is not a deterrent from you going and still seeking the assistance that you deserve because
Yeah.
one person had boundaries and was not able to meet you where you hope to be met in a time fashion that did not align with them. It's not personal. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times people make things from therapists personal because of what we do as
Yeah.
therapists. It's not a personal thing. At the end of the day, many of us are still running. This is also a service that we offer that we do get paid for. It is a business. And the business is of people, right? And
Mhm.
we are trying to be as ethical and as kind as we can, but that kindness is not always going to be wrapped in a cotton bow with pink and
Yeah.
sprinkles and all the things because of the times that we're living in. Um, and I
Yeah.
hope that that's clear and
Yeah,
lands well.
absolutely. And the
Yeah.
last little sort of factoid that I'll point folks to is that consultations. So many therapists offer 15 to 20-minute consultations so that like we
Yeah.
can get a sense of who you are and what you're looking for. If we're the right
Yeah.
fit, you can get a little bit of a sense
Mhm.
of us and whether we're the right
Mhm.
fit for you.
Mhm.
There are practices that do not offer consultations at all. They don't like them. They don't
Mhm.
want to do them.
Mhm.
And there are practices that offer them and charge for them. Right. And so
Yes.
that's just something to be aware of. I'm not
Mhm.
going to come down on one side or the other. I offer
Mm-mm.
consultation. I find it very useful to the flow of my practice. I don't charge people for consultations.
Yep.
I don't
Same.
begrudge any other therapists for charging
Nope.
for them or
Same.
not doing them.
Same.
Some therapists just don't want to answer the phone, right?
And they
And
know
so they
themselves.
don't do that. And so
Yeah,
they
they don't
have
do
an
it.
email set up, right? And that's,
Exactly.
again, that's all perfectly fine, but it's important for you to know that like sometimes that is a thing,
That is
right?
the
Sometimes people
case.
want to charge, sometimes people don't offer a consult. What I would say in that case is if you think that it's could be the right fit, go to the intake. That's the initial visit. You'll learn
Yeah.
about each other, that kind of thing. At
Yeah.
any point, whether it's session 1 or session 58, you or I can decide we are not the right fit for each other,
Yeah.
right? Hopefully, it doesn't get that to that point.
Yeah, that far. Yeah.
But like at any point, you can say,
At
I
any
just don't know that
point.
this is
Mhm.
working for
Or
me,
that
and
the
that
work is
is
just
okay.
over between you and that
Whew,
therapist. Like, the
yeah.
work
Hmm.
just may have stalled out, and it's like, "You know what? I need something different," and that's also okay.
Yeah.
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 So,
But let's close
let's
out.
close. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do a did you consider this for part 1s and part 2?
Yep.
So, give me
How about you?
one. Me first? Cool.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's see. I think for me, mm, I would say from part 1, did you consider that the mistrust we traced in part 1 is not a barrier to healing, it's more information, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
if people have learned across generations that systems do not believe them, then wanting a therapist who won't require proof of your reality is not should not be read as fragility at all, right? I think it should be read as wisdom and of discernment of like, no, this is what I know I need. And I think that's where part 2, what we're talking about today, lands on top of it. The Alliance research says trust is not like a warm up treatment, it is the treatment,
Yep.
right? In order to get the most that you want out of therapy, you do have to trust your therapist because we need you to be honest to do the best work that we can do. And if you
Yeah.
don't trust the space, if you don't trust the person, if you cannot be honest, then the work in my opinion, is all for naught because you are not going to get the best out of that. So the history and the healing, to me, are the same conversation. What about you?
Yeah, I think I would just say that I did consider this a little bit, but I want to sort of expand, which is this idea that to my fellow therapists, right, it's
Hmm.
easy to forget what it's like not to know something. And so I will just say for
Yes.
myself, I've been doing a lot of like work around understanding like who it is that I want to work with and like what
Hmm.
couples feel aligned and like all that
Hmm.
type of thing. And so it's
Hmm.
easy to forget that like someone had to teach me how to do that. And
Yeah.
so I guess I would just say to you, if you feel like you're struggling to do that or realize that somehow like, oh, there are clients in my practice who just are not the right fit for me. And
Hmm.
I don't know how they got here. And like, what does that
Hmm.
say about me and my process? And like, am I not doing that? Please don't be so hard on yourself, right? It's really figuring out it's reflection, right? Like,
Yeah.
how did this person get here? Right. Sometimes it's because there are holes in the boat, right? Or holes
Hmm.
in the process, right? And
Hmm.
people are able to come in that shouldn't be in the practice, right? Aren't the right fit for you. Other times it's not like people just aren't the right fit, right? Nothing's a problem until it's a problem, right? And so like they were a perfectly great fit until they were not.
Until they were not. Yeah. And sometimes that happens. I've been there. Yeah.
Hmm.
And Jason has helped
Well,
me
and then we
under
have
see
all been
that.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
Jason
all
has
been there.
helped me
Yeah.
at times to see like, oh, girl,
Hmm.
that's not on you. Sometimes it just happens. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, you're right. And
Yeah.
so yeah, thank you for that. I think across both parts of this conversation, what I think, and I'm not going to speak for Jason, but I think maybe both of us could align here, is that the history has now explained why trust in the therapeutic space is so hard, right?
Absolutely.
And today, hopefully, told you that trust is the treatment on top of here are the steps once you have built yourself up to like I'm ready to trust someone, here are the steps to go about making sure that you put your trust in the best fit out there for you.
Yeah.
So before you search, from my perspective, what I would say is ask yourself what you desire to receive and whether you are ready to receive it.
Mhm.
or at least at the very least, what would it take for you to get there?
Yeah.
So that way everyone can be aligned and on the same page. And if you found your person, what told you it was a fit? Like for those of you who are in therapy who are watching this of like, oh, I love my therapist and she's the best or he's the best or they're the best, whoever, like what told you it was a fit? Because that could help
Mhm.
somebody else. So please put that in the comments,
Yeah, please
because we
do.
read them and we
Mhm.
enjoy replying to you guys, right? It's a
Yeah.
time over here. Now I know we got to get better at TikTok. We will, but we do enjoy replying on YouTube and like Instagram, but we
Yeah.
are going to get better at TikTok. But yeah, like please tell us in the comments, like for those who have been searching for therapists, what has been helpful for you guys if you found a really good fit? What
Mhm.
was helpful in that experience,
Yeah.
that maybe we didn't get to today? And for those of you who are seeking, like what scares you about it? And if you really
Please.
enjoyed
Yeah.
this conversation, please like, comment, and subscribe. We have a goal
Please
of getting
do.
to a hundred subscribers by the end of summer. And summer
Yeah.
ends September 22nd,
Yeah.
2026. So by September 22nd, 2026, we really want to be at 100 subscribers. So please help us get there. Please like, comment,
Yeah.
subscribe. Please follow us. You can find us at The Wait and The Wonder
Mhm.
somewhere, many
Yeah, Wait and
places.
Wonder podcast on Instagram
There you
and
go.
on YouTube, we're at Wait and Wonder podcast. All the links are in the description. You can
Yes.
find me on LinkedIn at Jason L. Herndon, and I also write at submin.substack.com.
Yes. Jason always does that the best because I can never remember the handles, guys. I care about us. I really do. But it's just ADHD and it just be messing me up.
I understand.
You can find me on my personal page at by Felicia. You can find me on Threads at by Felicia. Thank you guys for 1K over there. Thank you guys for running up a video that was posted from our podcast from last time. So thank you guys for like, yeah, that's amazing. And then you can also find me on byfelicia.substack.com at Liberation Letters. And if you would like to be a part of my email list, please find my website, which will be in the show description, and you can find me there because I be doing freebies from here until the end of the year. I will be doing freebies once a month to help you guys help with your relationship with yourselves. That was a
Ooh,
mouthful.
love that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Whether it
Yeah.
be by journaling prompts or just by, things that come from a therapist who lives with non apparent disabilities, neurodivergency, and a whole lot of other stuff, things that have helped me to hopefully help you guys as well. So I'm excited about that. And please hit up Jason for consultation, right? If you are a therapist and you're
Yeah.
realizing, like, ooh, I don't know. I do be. Oh, please hit up Jason. He is amazing. I
Thank
am
you very
very.
much.
Yeah, he. I don't know why he said it like that, y'all. Like I don't tell him he's amazing all the time,
She does.
but
She does. She's good at
I
that. Yeah.
tell him he's amazing all the time. So I don't know why he was trying to act up for y'all over here
No,
on the
no, I
internet.
appreciate I'm bad at compliments. So I
Yeah,
appreciate it. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
always
So
happy to
that's what.
help.
And
Yeah,
yes, and this is why we have our own therapists. So yes,
100%.
and we love therapy over here, and we enjoy doing this for y'all. So we are going to wrap. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you guys so much for the time because I know sometimes you guys like our longer content. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So until next time, everyone, hold the weight.
and find the wonder, right? I did it.
Everybody.